Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria, your host, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as M. Monska. The show notes for this show are available on my blog, which is stitchedinsweden.blogspot.com, and we also have a Ravelry group, which is Stitched in Sweden. So, welcome to episode 10. I wanted to start out this week by saying a huge thank you to all of you who looked at my free sock pattern, Flying North, this week and made it be number 17 in the top 20 of Ravelry's Hot Right Now. And thank you to Kim for letting me know that it was up there. That was a huge surprise on Thursday afternoon to see, and just really exciting. So, yeah, that's thanks to you guys for checking out that pattern. So, this week on the podcast, I will talk about lots of things that have been happening this week, including some yarn acquisitions and some lovely gifts from friends and some exciting news, as well as some projects I've been working on, one knitting finished object, which you've already seen, and one sewing finished object, some upcoming patterns that I am planning to knit and knitting in my head right now, and then I will have a question for you and a little technique tip at the end. So, let's just get started. Right after I finished recording last week, I got a package slip in my door letting me know that I had something waiting for me at the post office. So I walked down there, and I got such a lovely and completely surprise package from Deb at Fondant Fiber. So she sent some gorgeous hand-carded Rolags, and these are called Lamb, and they are 20% Gotland, 30% Shetland, 30% merino, and 20% silk. 20, 30, 30, 20. So, and these are just so beautiful. And I was just talking about Shetland last week on the episode, and so I'm really looking forward to trying these out. I have been doing a bit of spinning this week, so you will see a little bit of that later on, and I'll talk about that some more. But Deb also sent these gorgeous hand-carded poonies in the Ritzy colorway, and these ones have a bit of sparkle in them. I've never knit anything or spun anything with sparkle in it, so those should be a lot of fun, and they're just gorgeous jewel tones, so I'm really looking forward to spinning those up. And she was just so sweet. She also sent along a coupon code for you guys. You should definitely check out her shop if you haven't already. She just updated it, so she has, this week when she updated it, she put in some hand-dyed yarn, which I have tried before and it's gorgeous. I really liked it because it doesn't pool, and it is a variegated yarn. But she put up some yarn, she put up some really beautiful project bags. Most of them are zippered, and she has a couple of drawstring bags too. I'm not sure if there were any new ones this week. But there's one called something with raindrops, I don't know. It's this really pretty gray raindrop fabric, and it has a blue base. It's a zipper bag, kind of like a wedge bag. Anyway, very tempting, and beautiful bags. A lot of the Rolags as well as some yarn and some comb top. So definitely check out her shop, and that is at Fondant Fiber with RE for fiber.com, and you can use the coupon code MORESTASH to get 10% off your next order. So there's her card, and she had this beautiful little flower stitch marker on there too, which is just perfect for spring. So thank you so much, Deb. That was such a surprise and a great start to last week. I also received a lovely package from Kemper from the Junk Yarn podcast. She and I have been talking a little bit, and she sent me 5 bags of Skittles. I've already eaten one of them. Because I commented on one of her Instagram pictures that had Skittles in it, and I said that you can't get Skittles in Sweden. She remembered that and sent me some delicious Skittles to try. Some flavors that I have never even seen. I ate I think it was called like Dark Side of the Rainbow or something, which was really good. Skittles have actually, within the last couple of weeks, I would say, made their debut in Sweden, but they taste different. They're not the same flavors, even though they're the ones in the red bag. They also have the sour ones in the green bag, but I haven't tasted those ones yet, so this will be a good opportunity for a side-by-side comparison, I think. But she also sent me this adorable little bird of happiness, which I'm going to hang above my desk. And this is also in a sparkly yarn. Really cute. And she sent these 3 little, I think of them as like little bonbons, little yarn balls. And I mean, you always need hedgehog sticky notes, right? So anyway, she sent me a really nice note, and Kemper, you have beautiful handwriting. So thank you so much. It was very sweet of you. Also this week I have been watching a new podcast to me, which is by Nina of the Fuzzy Love Knots podcast, and she is in Chile. And she has been, I think she's on episode number 4 or so, but she's a lot of fun to watch. She has a beautiful crocheted blanket that she's working on with tiny little granny squares, which I just think is gorgeous, and I don't know if I could ever, well, first of all, I wouldn't crochet it because me and crochet don't get along so well, but I definitely appreciate it as a beautiful blanket. So check her out. It's on YouTube, and that is the Fuzzy Love Knots podcast. I have also been watching the Love Sock Wool podcast with Sarah, and Sarah is one of my test knitters who is working on my Swedish spring shawl, which should be out in the next week or so. I just need to get some photographs and the final changes on the pattern. But Sarah is so much fun to watch, and she knits gorgeous socks and has beautiful sock yarn, and yeah, you should check her out. I think she is on episode number 3. So, it was a busy week. On Thursday, I went to the Stockholm Night Knitters, which is my local knitting group, and we meet every other Thursday in a cafe in this city. And yeah, just it's always sometimes it's a new group of knitters. There's always 1 or 2 people who maybe it's their first time, but it's a lot of fun, and we just sit at this long table in the entrance of the cafe and knit for a couple hours. And it's always interesting to me. I mean, I'm sure many of you have experienced this if you've ever knit in public, but the number of people who walk by and just stare at you or make some comment to their friends that they're with that you can hear. Like, oh my gosh, are they knitting? What is that? What are they doing? Is this a knitting class? It's just every time. So, yeah, but whatever, it's fun. This week I was also knitting on the bus on the way to my knit group, and I also find that if I ever knit in public transportation especially, people just stare, and they don't stare at my face, but they stare at my knitting. So if I look back at them, they don't necessarily see that I notice that they're staring at me. So it's just funny. This week on the bus there was a little kid staring, which, okay, a lot of times little kids stare just totally unashamed, just like solid staring. But there was also this like man who was, like a businessman who was sitting there, and he was just like, what is she doing? Just watching every stitch. So anyway, it's amusing, to say the least. So I went to that on Thursday. On Thursday afternoon, well, Thursday was a little bit of a stressful day. This week, the beginning of the week was stressful because I was waiting for some news that I knew would come on Thursday. I have been waiting for this news for quite a while now, but as the date approached, of course, I got a little bit more nervous, spent a good amount of Wednesday and Thursday sitting on the couch eating Skittles, thanks to Kemper, and potato chips, and drinking tea and knitting and stressing, because I was waiting to hear about whether or not I was accepted into the master's program that I applied to. So it was supposed to be announced on Thursday, and I thought that meant, Thursday at 12:01 a.m., maybe. I didn't stay up. I was like, okay, go to sleep, wake up, check in the morning. I checked at 6, nothing. Checked at 8, maybe it has to be the start of the workday, nothing. Checked every hour till about 12, and every half an hour. And then Thomas texted me at around 1:30 and said, you should probably log into your student account and take a look. Of course, the one time that he checked that day, he logged on and the results were posted. So, typical. Anyway, I am very excited and happy to say that I was accepted to my first choice program at the Karolinska Institute here in Stockholm. And so in the fall I will be starting the master's program there, which is a master's in public health with an emphasis in epidemiology. So yay! All that stressing was for nothing, and it made the rest of the week very much more enjoyable, and yeah, I'm really happy about that. So then on Friday I felt like, stress relieved and time to do a little bit of yarn shopping, adventuring, especially because on Thursday night when I was at my knit group, I learned of a new shop in Stockholm, in the Old Town, which carries 2 different yarns, and just a really tiny, cute little shop that I should check out. So I headed over there on Friday, and I first stopped at my other local yarn store to pick up some yarn for a friend, and then I made my way to Old Town. I tried to take some video along the way because a couple of you had asked if I could share some video of Stockholm and kind of just around near where I live. And that will happen, but not this week because I'm not happy with how the videos turned out, but now I have a better idea of what I should try to do. So you'll see that soon, but not this week. Maybe not next week either, we'll see. Anyway, I made my way to Gamla Stan, or Old Town, to a new shop, which it's the first time I've ever been there. It's called Makeri 14, and they opened in November of last year, so it is still fairly new in general. Very tiny shop, but adorable, and the shopkeeper is so nice. I think her name is Stephanie. And you can follow her on Instagram. It's just at Makeri14. And she has a website too, and an online shop if you are interested in checking out what she has. So I purchased a few things. The first thing that I got is the Spring 2015 issue number 12 of Pom Pom magazine, Pom Pom Quarterly. And this is just a gorgeous magazine, and I would love a subscription of this. I don't often buy subscriptions of magazines in print. I have a couple of magazines that I get occasionally for digital download, but this one, I mean, just the cover alone feels nice. And then the patterns inside, of course, are lovely. You can look at all the patterns on Ravelry that are in the magazine. But additionally, they have some interesting articles, some tips, and the layout of the magazine itself is just really well done. And I like it a lot. I'll talk about this a little bit more in some upcoming projects, and I'll show you what I am planning on knitting. So that, when I saw that she had those, and I have never seen that magazine in person before, I was really excited to get that, because I was actually thinking about ordering one online recently, but then she had it, so it was perfect. She stocks 2 different types of yarn, Jamieson's and Smith's Shetland wool, which is 100% Shetland, and this is in the 2-ply jumper weight. I was talking last week about how I want to try some Shetland yarn, so I thought I'm just going to get one little ball of it. This is 25 grams, and I will, knit up some swatches and see how I like it. In case you're interested, this is shade FC37 mix. It's a really pretty blue. I think of it as a nice spring blue. I think it's a similar color to something else I'm knitting. Doesn't that always happen? If it's not gray, it's blue or purple, pink. Okay, so she carries quite a number of colors of that. And then the other yarn I got is, I got 3 skeins of Host Garn, which is in this is Host Garn Super Soft, which I think is the same yarn that I'm knitting my summer top in, the blue one that I've been showing, which I'll show you again this week. I don't know, I'm a little confused because it says the name of it is Super Soft, but it has a different brand name, so I don't know if a couple of people sell the same yarn. Anyway, I got 2 balls of Sugar Snap and 1 of Geranium. And I will show you in a little bit what I plan to knit with those in upcoming. The last thing that I got from that shop was this little pair of snips. They are very sharp and gold and just, perfect for snipping ends, and yeah. But she was really nice, and it was just, even though it is a tiny, tiny shop, I hope she is able to expand her yarn range a little bit, just perhaps offer a little bit more variety than just the 2, but she also has a nice selection of paper, notebooks, including some more knitter-specific things. Like she has the Knitter's Graph Paper notebook, she has the Pom Pom Quarterly, she has a color work book, which was a Kickstarter, I think, and it's about color work and sound. I can't remember who it's by, but she has a lot of modern and current things in there, and just a really nicely curated selection. So, lovely little shop, and I will definitely be back. And the last thing this week, before I get into my works in progress, is that I have signed up for a Craftsy class. I am a Craftsy affiliate, so if you click on the link on my blog, stitchedinsweden.blogspot.com, if you click on the Craftsy link, and if you register or sign up for a class, then I will receive a small commission. But the only reason that I advertise for them on my blog is because I really enjoy taking the classes. I have taken a few so far, and I think that this one is probably my favorite. I think I've learned the most from it even before watching the entire class. So I am taking drafting from worsted to woolen with J.C. Boggs Faulkner, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I would totally recommend this class to anyone who spins, because even if you've been spinning for a while, I think that you will probably learn something new. If you're just starting out spinning, this class can almost be the first class that you take in spinning, and you could start directly. I think it probably could be helpful if you have somebody who knows how to spin to sit down with you first, just to help you get familiar more with like how to put the leader on the bobbin and things like that to get started, because she doesn't go into that so much. She just kind of starts directly with techniques for spinning. But after that just initial wheel setup, which she does go into a little bit, then this class is just full of information. And so far, I haven't even taken the entire class yet, but I'm so inspired to spin again, and I have learned a lot of new techniques that I didn't know before, so I'm really enjoying it, and I would definitely recommend it. Nina from Fuzzy Love Knots was talking about this class as well. She is taking it, and she is only using a drop spindle, so she's not able to take advantage of all the different types of techniques for spinning, but she said she was still finding it useful, and I can definitely see that, but it probably is better for if you are spinning on a wheel. The way the class is set up is that it starts from one end of the spectrum with the worsted yarns and tells you how to spin those, and then by taking each of the classes you basically work your way slowly, step by step, up to a woolen technique, and it's with just changing really small things, so it's a very natural and gradual shift to get from the worsted to the woolen. And she talks about why you would want to spin these different types of yarns, and what you would use them for, and yeah, like what benefits each of them has. So I would totally recommend that. Yeah, so speaking of that, I will talk a little bit about my works in progress this week, which includes spinning. So this week, after I received my lovely gift from Deb from Pondant Fiber in the mail, I was totally inspired to spin again, because I want to spin those perfectly, really. Or I want to spin them very intentionally and kind of have an idea of how they're going to come out. So I decided to do a little sampling and do the sampling along with the Craftsy class. So I have spun up these 4 little samples, which are hideous together, but each of them individually is okay. So I started out with this one here, which is some BFL swirl from Gail's Art on Etsy. And you can see it's not perfect. I was really focusing on the technique while spinning these little samples. It turned out really fluffy. I spun this one in a worsted short forward draw method, which is supposed to be kind of like the densest yarn, I think. And mine's really fluffy and lofty, so I don't know, maybe if I just don't have enough twist in the ply. But I like it still. I mean, it's squishy. It's just not a drapey yarn, which usually I think you get a little more drape when you have worsted spun. This is a little sample from Spin City UK, and I spun this worsted, which I spun short forward draw. It's combed top. I also spun this one. You can see it's a little bit more uneven. This was a little sample from Deb from an order that I made with her a while ago. This was a Merino Tencel blend, and this was spun I think I spun this one from the fold. And then finally I have this little guy, which is also a sample from Deb. She has a Naturals Pack sampler. If you want to try a bunch of different types of wools, I would definitely recommend that. And this is Morit Shetland. And I spun this, I believe, in a short backwards draw. But I was so pleased with how my spinning was going. I mean, of course, okay, this is just the end, so that's why it looks horrible. But, I mean, even though these little samples, of course, aren't perfect, I felt like I knew what I was doing a lot more. And so my spinning was really intentional. And I really liked that. It made it more enjoyable, so I wasn't just like, oh yeah, spinning, 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 this is kind of working out. It was like, I know exactly what I'm doing it right, and it should come out like this drapey yarn or this fluffy yarn or more even or less even. So I am really pleased with that, and it was a lot of fun. So another work in progress that I was doing this week is more spinning. Spinning this lovely fluff, which is some superwash merino and nylon that I purchased from Deb of Fondant Fiber a couple of months ago. And I had just been saving it and like wanting to spin it really well and not sure if I could. I have been spinning for a while, since I was about a junior in college. And I started out spinning on a wheel that I made with my dad. And that was a wheel out of a bicycle tire. And I built it with him in the summer, one summer, I think it was between my sophomore and junior year or something. And I just really enjoyed it. Because I had tried with a drop spindle and I was like, this isn't for me on a drop spindle, but I know that I'm going to love spinning. So I need a wheel. And then I couldn't buy a wheel because they were too expensive, and so I was like, Dad, let's make a wheel. And so we got a bike tire, and I bought the flyer separately from my local yarn shop in Boulder, which is Shuttle Spindles and Skeins. And then we just built a wheel around the flyer. So that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work because we never made a pedal mechanism work. So basically what I did was I had the wheel sitting in front of me, the bike tire, and I would kick it with my foot to spin it. So you can imagine that was a lot of work. It's kind of like grate wheels, you know, when you spin it with your hand, similar to that. But I made a lot of yarn, and I actually sold a lot of that yarn, and I sold enough yarn to buy myself a spinning wheel. So since then I've had a couple of different wheels that I've tried out and bought, used for a while, and then sold them and bought a different wheel. And right now I have the Hanson Mini Spinner. This is an electric spinning wheel. And you can see the fiber on there is the fiber that I'm spinning up from Deb. There's the fluff, and I'm loving how this is coming out. It looks very different from the braid of fiber, but of course that's because the braid has a lot of white spots in it, and even though the other parts are saturated with color like this, it might blend in to this white part, and so some of these white fibers come into the purple and it appears as a lighter purple, more pastel kind of while you're spinning it up. So I'm trying to decide if how I'm going to finish that yarn, if I'm going to do a 2-ply or a traditional 3-ply. I've never done a 3-ply, so I'm kind of leaning towards that now. I am spinning that with a short forward draw, and I'm really enjoying it. So I've just been doing a little bit kind of every day and having a lot of fun with it. So probably after I finish that, I will spin up some of the new fiber that came. But yeah, it's been fun to get back into spinning, definitely. And I think also with the class, it's kind of like I refreshed my spinning, my desire to spin, but also because now I'm spinning much more purposefully and I know what I'm doing, because before I kind of just taught myself, and even though I produced good yarn and I was happy with the yarn that I made, I always felt like, am I really doing this right, or is there a real way that you should be doing this? And really, there's not, but if you want to spin consistent yarn and use the same technique throughout, then, you know, you might want to use the same technique throughout instead of switching, which is something that I tend to do otherwise. But now, after taking this class, it's like, okay, this is the technique that I'm choosing to use for this entire braid. And that feels good to do. So, okay, so on to some knitting works in progress. This week, most of my knitting has been focused on my new shawl, which is knit in some lovely yarn from the Wool Barn. It's knit in her merino singles in the Purple Dream colorway. It's going to be a little bit hard to show you, but here it is. And you can see that it has a garter stitch for the main body. And right now I have just finished part of the lace section that comes next. See if you can see that. Kind of like diamond lace. And there's another little garter stitch section, and then there will be an applied edging, which I'm going to need to find some different yarn for. I have this much left of the yarn from the Wool Barn, and I think she's having an update on April 5th. So I will see what she has then. I'm thinking for the edge I would like either a nice warm, a warm light gray, or some neutral cream color. So we'll see what she has. Otherwise, I know that there is a skein of Tosh Merino Light in the Antler colorway, which is basically just a natural white at my local yarn store. So we will see, but I've swatched for the applied edging and I'm really pleased with that. So that will be coming up soon. I will definitely need some test knitters for that. I have put a post up in the Ravelry group that if you are ever interested in being a test knitter, if you just send me a private message on Ravelry, then when I have a pattern ready that needs to be test knitted, I can send out a message, and you can see if it is something you might want to knit, and if you have time, and that kind of thing. So, and I've already gotten some people who have responded to that, so thank you to those of you who have. My other work in progress this week is my summer top, still, which is knit in Magazine Duet Super Soft, which, again, I think is the same base or yarn as this, Host Garn. And here's that top. I decided to block it this week, which I just blocked it on the needles. I carefully soaked it in the sink and held the needles, like the needle tips with the metal parts, out of the water, and then I laid it on a mesh blocking sweater drying rack that I have, so that it would be a little bit easier to see the body. I didn't knit on this very much this week, although I did do the arm stitches, because it's going to have just like, not really sleeves. And then I also did a Latvian braid across the top. So this is going to be similar to the water lily, but I haven't decided if I want to use the water lily lace or if I'm going to do a different lace. So we'll see. But basically I'm up to the lace part now, so I need to decide. And what I should do is move this half onto some waste yarn or different needles so that I can knit the back, and then be ready when I decide what lace I want to do, but I haven't done that yet. So, mostly because I just wanted to knit all the time on my shawl this week. But, yeah, we'll see. That will probably happen soon. So, finished objects. My only knitted finished object this week is my Flying North socks, which you have likely seen. You saw one last week, and you may have seen both of them together on Instagram or on my new pattern, which is released for free on Ravelry. And I'll just put it on my hand because I don't have a sock blocker, but then you can see the top of the sock is that V pattern. And it's called Flying North because it kind of resembles the Flying Geese quilt pattern, which is little triangles that all stack up next to each other. So this is my interpretation of that for knitting. And it's a really easy pattern to add onto however you usually make your socks. So I made these with quite a pointy toe, and that's what the sock pattern has written out. But I also say in there, use whatever toe you want. The only thing that you want to make sure is that that your total stitch count is an even number, but that when you divide it by 2, it's an odd number. So, for example, the sock pattern my Flying North pattern says that you want to get up to 62 stitches, because when you divide 62, which is an even number, when you divide that by 2, you get 31, which is an odd number. So 64 stitches doesn't work, because when you divide 64 by 2, you get 32. That's an even number. It doesn't work. So some of you have wondered, if you usually cast on 64, what should you do? What I would say is, if you usually cast on 64 with a US size 1 needle, maybe try doing 66 with a 0, or do 62 with a 1.5 or something. You can adjust a little bit, or just try it. 2 stitches really isn't that much of a difference, and you may find that you actually like them better. For a long time I knit socks on US ones with 64 stitches cast on. And then I did all the foot measuring and cardboard cutting out for the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and realized that with that pattern it was suggesting that I had 56 stitches, which seemed like a huge difference from 64. But then I knit a couple pairs of socks with 56 stitches, and I love them. So I think, especially with sock knitting, you can always make little adjustments, and you never know what you might like best. So might as well try it. Let's see, what else? Okay, so that is my only knitting finished object. But I do have a sewing finished object this week, which is what I did during the first part of the week when I was kind of like, when I was stressed out about school. I was almost too stressed out to knit because I didn't have anything that I was working on that was just plain knitting. In my summer top, I had gotten to the top part, and that's why I'm kind of stuck, like, what lace I want to do. I haven't decided yet. And I couldn't knit on that because I had to think about what lace I wanted to do. And I couldn't knit on my shawl because I had already finished the plain garter stitch body part, and I wasn't sure how long I wanted to do the lace part, like if I wanted to try to make it a one skein shawl, or if I wanted to do a border in a different color and have it be 2 skeins. So I was kind of stuck there. And that's when I also did a bit of spinning, because I was like, okay, just do something else, relax, calm down a little bit. But I also did some sewing. So this was a lot of fun. Well, to make, and I'm just really happy with it finished. This is my bento bag. And this is a little project bag. You can see the inside here. It's fully lined. And it has a little gusset on the side so that it has a flat bottom and it can sit up flat. I'll put some yarn in it so you can see. But so it can sit flat by itself, and then it also can be tied. Okay, maybe not like that. I'll take one out. It's a little bit too wide. But I can tie it just like this, and it's kind of like a little fortune cookie, and it's just cute. I had my shawl in this all week as I was out and about, and it was perfect because I find sometimes that zippered project bags, which I like, but sometimes zippered project bags, my yarn gets stuck on the zipper, and especially while I was knitting with this merino single, I really didn't want it to get caught on anything. So this was perfect because I could have it sitting in my purse, open, and then just pull the yarn out of there. So I hand stitched this because I don't have a sewing machine. So it's all hand stitched. Luckily you can't really tell. Because I did like how you stitch on a quilt binding if you do that by hand, so that it's invisible stitches. But yeah, I'm really happy with how that came out. So if you are interested in one of these bento bags, send me a PM on Ravelry, and I'm thinking maybe about making some to sell, but I haven't totally decided yet. So yeah, but if you're interested, let me know, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so finally, I have been thinking about lots of projects that I want to knit. So for upcoming, my main inspiration this week came, of course, from this issue of Pom Pom. And this issue in particular, I didn't realize when I bought it, but it has a very Nordic theme. So a lot of the pattern names are from Swedish words or Norwegian or Danish. And the article in here is a very good article by Anna Maltz, who I actually met at the Stockholm Night Knitters knitting group. She's from London, but she was visiting Stockholm, and she writes this article about Sweden and Swedish minimalism, and she talks about the Nordic, Nordiska Museet, which is the Nordic museum, and her trip there and the textiles she looked at and stuff, which was the same day that we met her at the Stockholm Night Knitters, so that was kind of fun. But this is the Fika socks, which are really simple but have a nice detail on the toe. And fika is the Swedish word for basically a coffee snack that you have during the day, which often involves a cup of coffee or tea with some little sweet. So whether that's a piece of cake or a little sandwich or something, which is kind of just funny because, yeah, now I know what that word means. Anyway, another pattern that I am really looking forward to knit is this one, which is loose or something. And this is a Norwegian word for lice, which is kind of gross, I think. Because, really? I don't want to be thinking about lice while I'm knitting or wearing a sweater. But I guess because it's those little dots. I don't know. Whatever. I am definitely looking forward to knitting that pattern, and I bought the host garn with that in mind. So mine will be, the main body will be in the sugar snap color, which is the lighter pink, and then the little dots, I'm just going to call them dots, will be in the brighter pink color. So I might swatch for that today or something and see how that's going to work out. But I think that will be a really nice summer top. And then, of course, my other dream knitting is Tambourine, which is the cover sweater. And this has some really nice little Knoop details here. Here's another picture of it. And this one is knit in a DK weight yarn. But I think that I would really like to knit that in the Jamieson and Smith Shetland. That's a good color for that. I might want to knit that in this. So I think I might swatch for that in this and just see how the Knoops look and do a little math. Don't be scared of knitting math. It's not that hard. If you ever need help with knitting math, you can let me know. And I would be happy to help you, because once you conquer knitting math, your possibilities for modifications of sweaters and anything, any knitted object, your possibilities for modifications are endless. And it just opens a completely new, it just opens new doors. You can knit a swatch and you'll just know exactly what size your sweater is going to come out because you've counted the number of stitches per inch and then, figured out what size your finished fabric will be. So, I used to be scared of knitting math for a long time because it always just seemed like it lied and it didn't work and got complicated. But it's not complicated, and you can do it. That's my announcement for this week. Okay, but this week my question for you is, what is your favorite or most used notion? Or supply, kind of. And mine is this handy dandy little kitchen scale that my mom got me. The lid just comes off and rests on there. Then you have the little screen with grams and ounces, and you can zero it, and yeah. I use this all the time. I use it for checking how much yarn I have left. I use it when I'm going to knit socks and I want to weigh out 250-gram skeins. I use it when I'm spinning. I don't have a Lazy Kate, so when I want to ply yarn, I spin it all on one bobbin, typically, and then I wind it off into a ball, or 2 or 3, depending on how I'm going to ply it. And how I do that is I start with something like a little ball of yarn already, and I weigh that so that I can subtract that from the total weight in the end. And then I just start wrapping the yarn off of the bobbin, and I keep weighing it until I have wound off half or a third or whatever. And then I break it, and I start a new little ball, and I wind, so then there will still be half or a third or whatever left. And then I ply from those balls. Usually I put them in a bowl or something, and I just ply from those, and it works really well. And I think it also helps to redistribute the twist. So, yeah, you don't need a lot of fancy equipment to spin. If you don't have it, then you can still make it work. So I didn't receive a particular question this week, although a couple of people have asked to see some video of the surrounding areas, and I did try to record on my way to the yarn store this week, but I wasn't very happy with how they came out, so I will definitely work on that in the next week or 2 or 3. It will happen sometime soon, and I will share that then. But if you have any questions that you would like me to answer on the podcast, please feel free to leave a message in the Ravelry group, or you can send me a message on Ravelry, or you can email me at stitchedinsweden@gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer questions. So I will end this week with a technique tip, and my technique tip for this week is a way to make your SSKs look neater. So I don't know if you have this problem, but I definitely did. If you look at this lace V here, for example, this one right here, these stitches here and these stitches here look the same on both sides, which is how you want it to be. Before I used this technique, which I'm about to tell you, my side with the SSKs would be really sloppy and loose looking, and they never looked the same as the knit 2 togethers. So if you also have that problem, one thing you might try is, usually when you do an SSK, you do slip one knitwise, slip a second one knitwise, stitch knitwise, and then knit those 2 stitches together through the back loop. If you would like to try this new technique to make your stitches a little bit neater and tighter, what I do is I slip the first one knitwise, I slip the second one purlwise, and then I knit 2 together through the back loop. And that just, I don't know why. I think because there's less stitch that you're kind of like pulling up, so it doesn't get as big and floppy and sloppy or something. I don't know. Anyway, it works pretty well, and yeah, you might give it a try. So I think that is it for this week. Again, if you have a question for me, be sure to ask me that in one of the ways that I said you could. And if you are interested in test knitting any of my patterns or being an available test knitter, then send me a message as well, and you can let me know what your preference is for test knitting, if you only knit socks, or you only knit shawls, or you never want to knit a sweater, for example, or if you love knitting everything. That would be lovely. And so that is it for this week. I look forward to being in contact with you guys throughout the week on Instagram and Ravelry. So, yeah, until next week, happy knitting. Bye.